Okay, welcome everybody and welcome Ricky today for our Conversations in Career session. So to get going, Ricky, do you think you can tell me a little bit about your background and your current position?
That's fine. So I'm a biochemist by academic. So I'm a scientist that decided to move into the services world and not practice day-to-day science. So I'm Ricky Martin. I'm the founder of Hyper Recruitment Solutions, biochemist by academics who spent the last decade and a half helping other scientists get jobs across the sector in a variety of places. So I've probably spent most of my time realizing what people do in their career in the sciences, as opposed to as a graduate scientist not knowing what they did. So I've built up that knowledge over 15 years, and now my job is to help great people to get great jobs.
Amazing. And do you kind of support them to find careers in non-lab roles and lab roles? Do you kind of cater for both?
Yeah, well, I guess that was the eye-opener for me as somebody who studied and spent 12 hours a day, 3 days a week in my final year at university growing E. coli in a petri dish in an incubator, which was extremely gripping. I thought that the only jobs that there were in science were wearing a white coat and goggles in the lab. Couldn't be further from the truth. And yeah, the roles that we support, okay, they might be within the science arena. I always say it's the businesses that we help are the life sciences, and that normally is a company that makes life-changing medicines or life-changing technologies. So it's both in and out the lab as a result. To get a product to market to help a patient, you can't just have people in white coats. You need to have people who can sell the product, who can connect networks, who can speak, have knowledge transfer, who can do outreach, people who can third-party manufacturing, a supply chain. It really is in and outside of jobs, and that's what's fascinating about this industry. And I think only those in the industry realise that. And how can we get more people to realise that jobs in science aren't all in the lab?
Definitely, I completely agree. So yeah, that's great to hear. And did you always know that this is kind of where you wanted to be? When did you kind of decide? Or
I can put my hand on my heart and say I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow morning, and that's not I'm an unstructured person. But I think it's very hard when you're in school and somebody says, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" To really know what you're capable of and what you're going to enjoy at the time. I think environmental factors and every occasion can change your opinion. So did I ever think that I would be managing a recruitment company for the sciences? No, I didn't. I say this quite openly. I spent a lot of my earlier career as a wrestler. So that's nothing to do with recruitment or science. But what I did do is I took opportunities that came in front of me, and I decided that I had an aptitude for kind of probably facts and the curiosity of facts. So for me, that's maths and science. So I studied biochemistry because I was good at it. I didn't find my vocation in the lab because part of what I learned in my laboratory dissertation probably didn't appeal to what I like doing, which is talking and speaking to people. So I didn't know what I was ever going to do. I couldn't tell you what I'm going to do in 5 years' time. So that interview question of where do you see yourself in 1 year, 3 year, or 5 year, it's so hard to answer. Yeah. And I think 5 years is like throwing grass in the air and seeing where it will land. 1 year, we can control what we'd like to be. 3 years, we can be aspirational. 5 years, I think if you know what you're doing in 5 years, you might not have been open to opportunities enough on the journey there.
Absolutely. So I guess kind of in the moment is you've just got to go with what you're interested in. And would you say that you kind of took a bit of a risk leaving the lab?
I think, well, it is. When you study biochemistry, right, I think to not go into the labs, and bear in mind, my family, I was the first to go to university within my brothers and the group. So everybody thought that I'd go and be a dentist or a doctor, right? I'm studying science. It's a proper profession. That's what I'm going to go and do. To then end up saying, "Oh, look, kind of, Mum, I'm going to be a recruiter," was disappointing to the family, I would say, as opposed to the dreams they had of me being this academic that moved into science. So was it a risk? Yeah, I'd say it's a risk because I haven't practiced what I studied. However, without what I studied, there's no way on earth, I think, I would be as interested as the companies that I help. I mean, I call everybody in my business a life changer. I said they're a life changer because not only do we get people jobs where they earn money to help their life, but these are jobs where we help get product to patient, we help get technologies to market that help patients either save lives, change lives, aid lives, or do everything they can. So I actually think I'm making a difference in that way with the sector. But unless I studied my academics in biochemistry, I probably wouldn't appreciate how well this sector helps a patient. And when I'm helping my client and they're telling me about the products that they make, and they're helping, I don't know, an example of a client that makes products for children with oncology problems.
Yeah.
Well, I probably wouldn't realize what a difference they're making to those children unless I studied science. And then, and when I speak to them about the job and they're talking through the technical element, I'm not sitting there thinking, oh yeah, I just need to understand this to hire. I'm really interested in it. So it's helped what I did, but it was a risk because I don't do what I studied. So anything outside of that is a risk. But I think to most people, I think people need to play to their strengths. One of my strengths is I'm quite a loud character. I like to talk. I enjoy building relationships with people. And if I took a job that didn't play to those strengths, I don't think I'd be the best that I could be at what I do. Whereas I've taken an interest in science, but played to my strengths. And that fits very, very well in life science recruitment. And I'm growing my business to hire more people that, like me, have a STEM background, want to apply it in a different way, and our passion can help a sector. So risk, yes, but I think everyone, when they take a new job, whether it's in the space they do or not, is taking a risk.
So what did you do before this? Because I'm intrigued as to how you kind of developed these business management skills. Like, it's quite incredible starting up your own company.
Well, ironically, although I always had an interest in business, I had an affinity for science and maths. It was always something I really liked. I used to mark papers for Mensa as a young man, like in a different day. But so to me, I didn't do a business course. I still haven't done an official business course. But I think a lot of my business is about recruitment. It doesn't have a big barrier to entry. So I don't need to get regulatory approval, or I don't need to get compliance kind of input from the FDA or the MHRA. So the barrier to entry is slightly easier. But to me, if you really, really care about something, you can make it happen. You can learn on the way. So what makes a difference to my sector? Would life science care more that I have a degree in business and an MBA, or do they care more that I'm a biochemist, I'm a member of the Royal Society of Chemistry, and I've spent 15 years helping scientists move between organizations when they want to get a stepping stone? So hopefully that answers the question a little bit without an answer. But business, you don't need to be a business person to be in business. I believe you really need to care about what your business does, whether it's your business or the business you work for. If you care about it enough, you nurture it like you do children. I've got a young family, and I want that family to have the best in life, and I'll do my best to nurture them, just like a business, whether it's my own or I work for someone again one day. That doesn't bother me. It's if I care about it, I will be able to succeed. And I think that's the mindset people need to have with jobs. And when you're taking a job, don't take it for money. Take it because you're really, really interested in the subject area, and you really, really like the people around you, and the culture makes it fun. So I think it's all about playing to strengths, and it's all about focusing on what you care about most.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. So based on your career path, what kind of key challenges have you faced along the way, would you say?
Well, for me, I guess I'm a supplier to the life sciences. I think a barrier to entry is always going to be, from a recruitment perspective, is we are a recruitment company, and we are trying to provide a service to life sciences, whereas we're not a life science company. So you've always got how well do your companies complement one another. So I talk about this with my clients. I'm like, look, you can work with any recruiter with any background. You don't need a biochemist or a member of the Royal Society to recruit for you. You don't. However, what you will get with that is somebody who cares as much, or hopefully cares as much, about your patients, who are your end customers, as you do. And if I can resonate that's what I care most about, which I do, I couldn't recruit for anything other than the sciences. I'd find it boring. I'd find it kind of unauthentic. That I care as much about. So to overcome that, I want to be seen as a partner or as a part of the sector, not as a supplier. So that was definitely something to overcome as a younger recruiter without lots of depth of experience. How can I add value to your talent hiring or your talent acquisition? And as my business got off the ground and I've grown it, how can people understand that actually I'm here for the test of time. I'm not here to make a quick buck and bugger off and do recruitment and anything. Like, loads of recruitment companies want to do life science recruitment now because it's a busy sector. COVID-19, people see vaccines, they see diagnostics. Everybody's running to be in it because other markets have slowed down. Whereas I've always been in it. I've studied for it. I've spent 15 plus years in it. So it's about, to me, establishing myself through reputation and being a partner, not a supplier. And it doesn't matter what anyone does in their career. You need to identify what you're not and what you are. And it's through what you do over the years of doing it well is what people believe, not just your strap line of why they should work with you, because recruitment's not unique. There's loads of recruiters out there. There's loads of really, really good science recruiters out there. I won't say bad things about competition. There's space for everyone. But for me, I believe proof is in the pudding. And I guess when people work with us as they do, they stay with us and we stay with them. It works two ways.
Amazing. That's great to hear. So what kind of things would you say you're grateful for learning, spinning it slightly?
I think as an individual, I think I'm grateful for learning, and I think starting a business, and it's the same with any job, I was always taught that if you don't, and it's what I almost preach as well, and I mentioned it already, if you don't deeply care about the subject that you're involved in, I don't think you're going to succeed. Or you might succeed, but you might not be fulfilled personally. So I was always taught, focus on something you enjoy, something that gets you out of bed in the morning, not just clock watching. I'm in at 8:30, I'm gone at 5:30. And I think that resonates into any role. When I speak to people like that, I'm gonna move this job, but why are you looking to leave? Yeah, I think I'm a bit underpaid. I'd like a bit more money. Well, talk to me about your manager. What's your relationship? Oh, brilliant. You know, it's like my best friend. What about the team? Well, we're like a family.
Yeah.
What about the culture of the company? Well, they're really trying to make a difference, Rick. And I'm like, why are you looking to leave?
Yeah.
Because you can go elsewhere. You might get another $5,000 if you're doing really well for yourself. But if you don't complement the culture, don't complement, you're going to be so unfulfilled. So for me, that's definitely what I learned early stage in my career. It was about how can I be great? How can I make money? And that might be a younger person thing where you're thinking, how can I establish my career? I think as I've moved on, it's what do I get enjoyment doing? What makes me proud? And what would I one day like to say to my family, or how I made a difference? Like if I look at what we've done during these COVID years and the amount of staff that we've supported to do the diagnostic testing is something I couldn't have imagined. And I'm really proud of that.
Yeah.
And it's not about money, because there's occasions we've done things not at the prices we know normally. We've done it to help organizations and to make differences. So one thing I've learned is always care and you'll be fulfilled. And secondly, whatever you think you're going to do, try and be more realistic. Whatever you think you will achieve, maybe divide that by 2, and that's probably where you might land. So try and be as realistic as you can. And that goes at every stage in your career. Sometimes people want to jump for unrealistic goals and they're not happy because it's not possible.
Definitely. I think that's some really good advice. And in terms of for these students graduating this year and they're now in the big bad world, what kind of advice would you give them of looking for a job in these kind of COVID times?
Well, I guess 3 words: don't give up. There is inevitably in a market where the news all day long is talking about difficulty in employment, the employment rates are plummeting. We're always going to hear this in the news. Instantly, we're going to feel we've got a lot of competition. The reality is there is more competition. So, okay, let's get used to that. There's always competition in life. Arm yourself with the best possibility. Try and be as flexible as you can. And what I would say, flexibility isn't you have to earn X. You have to be based in Y, you have to only be doing Z. If you're so narrow of what you're looking for, you're going to be restricted. My advice would be your perfect job's not coming in your first, second or third job. It's unlikely. It will come and you will build to it, and that perfect job will change as the years go on. But take a role that will build skills for the future. Don't take a role because it ticks every single box. Now, there's occasions where we have to make compromises. Everybody does. Make the compromise to build the skill set. Then build additional skills in that company or other companies in the future that can build additional repertoire of your background, so you become more employable and you can be more demanding with what the perfect role looks like. And you'll probably know more what that looks like once you've got experience. I think sometimes we don't realize this competition. We get defeated when we make some applications and we don't hear back. And our mind can read a job and think it's reading to us, and we can write the CV for us that we think is perfect. And then for whatever reason, we don't get that job. That is the nature of the job market. There's a lot of competition, but great people even at a graduate level, are still getting great roles. So don't give up, be persistent, and just keep going back. And where possible, ask for feedback, try and learn. It's really cheesy, but I say it all the time. Rejection is just a form of redirection. If someone says no, try and understand why they say no if you can, and try and arm yourself to make sure you get a yes next time around. It's not always the end of the world.
Excellent. No, that's brilliant. So when you were kind of going on your journey, what kind of support did you have? Did you have somebody there to guide you along the way, or did you kind of...
I pretty much made a lot of the mistakes probably on my own. From an academic perspective, I wasn't someone that wanted to go on and do a master's or PhD. It didn't sit well with me, and I say this not as necessarily a problem, but I did feel like the university was geared up for keeping me in the academic sector as opposed to redeploying me into the private or into industry. So I felt there was a slight disconnect there when I'm a graduate. I think there was a slight disconnect of what realistic expectations of what the market could offer me. I thought I could get a bigger salary and probably call shots more than maybe I realised, and I couldn't because I didn't get a first class and I was being restricted on location. So I don't think you need someone necessarily to guide the way. I think to understand that if you seek opportunities, you can get outcomes. You can learn from outcomes positively or negatively, and you can come back stronger. If you think that someone will tell you exactly what to do, where to do it, I think you're going to be very disappointed. So that's not to give hard love in any way. But I mean, if I think of my opportunities, I was working in recruitment and I was wrestling outside of that. And I had a friend who, completely on a different topic, a friend who had an audition for a TV program to go on Total Wipeout. And I said, I'll drive you if you get me an audition. He said, well, how can I do that? I said, well, tell them I'm a wrestler. And they said, all right, Rick, you come along and you can do that. And then I got the gig, which was very fortunate. I got to go on the show, and which I fortunately won, which was handy. And then when it come round to, I wanted to get my business off the ground, I decided that The Apprentice for me was a mechanism to get investment of 250k to set up my business, which is more than I need and people necessarily need in a services company. But by having the wrestling background gave confidence that I wasn't a kind of a shrinking violet. And by having the prior exposure to being on a TV show meant that I was probably a bit more comfortable and they've got something to reference. So although they're really different, none of them say I now need a recruitment company dealing with the life sciences. I get the point that I'm trying to make is all of those opportunities that I seek that could have gone drastically wrong gave me things to learn and gave me a footprint or a step on the ladder to get to something else. And I think every time there's an opportunity, you need to take it, you need to learn from it, and you need to figure out what the silver linings are. I wouldn't have I'd be doing this company with or without those interesting things, but it wouldn't be as big, it wouldn't have grown as fast, and it wouldn't be as successful as soon. I'd have got here, I'm convinced, because it's what I care about, and I preach about passion. But I accelerated a decade of my time by taking those opportunities, by getting investment, by getting some platform to grow. If I didn't, but take opportunities and learn from the mistakes. Don't worry about making mistakes. We all make them. I've made loads today already. We'll still make mistakes.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Ricky, for kind of sharing a little bit about your background and your career journey. I certainly enjoyed listening to it. So yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
Well, I hope it helps.
Thanks.